Greetings and love. I am Marcia with Gnoshery Libertas, and you are joining us for Sanctuary, episode 45 on December 5th, 2022. If you are joining us for the first time, we gather together every Monday evening to create an alchemical space with one another for companionship for those who are on the call with me, and also for those who are listening in the replay, because there really is no time or space. So whenever we are experiencing this together, it is the perfect moment. And Sanctuary is something that we created through Gnoshery Libertas, where I go into meditation with spirit every week. And this is something that I do one-on-one with people, but this is also something that I do for the collective, where I will get quiet, get silent, often turn on random music, things that I am not choosing. I'm allowing spirit to kind of play it through Pandora, whatever spirit wants to play. And then I listen for the activated lyrics, and I listen to what spirit or Holy Spirit, Great Spirit, the part of God that moves through us, but also has that broader eagle eye perspective, much more so than our human personality self, and can help guide us through some of these more dense layers of this physical human reality that it's very easy to get bogged down in mentally and emotionally. And so every week I gather what spirit calls the light transmission, or what spirit thinks is most important for the human to know right now about what is happening on this planet, so that we can most easily navigate our own lives and come from a responsive place rather than a triggered or reactive place that would lead us more into suffering. So the whole point of this is to create companionship, to create alchemy, and also to give us the tools and resources to live a happy and more healthy and fulfilled life. So if you'd ever like to join us here as a live guest, we meet at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. You can find us on patreon.com/Gnoshery Libertas, or on buymeacoffee.com/Gnoshery Cafe. This gives you access to our private community, discounts as well on any one-to-one readings or mentorships. And you can also find these services on etsy.com/shop/Gnoshery Libertas. So getting all of that out of the way, the light transmission for this evening is called Give Me a Break, or Gimme A Break, if you're old enough to remember that show back in the day, because it was said with that energy of like, I'm about to break, like I can't take it anymore. Like I don't have anything left in the tank here, spirit, soul, God, whatever you want to call, the energy that the human kind of flails itself at when it has come to its last vestige of what we know what to do here. We've kind of done all the stops that the human knows how to do, and we've reached this breaking point. And so we're going to be talking about this break, or this need for a break. And of course, if we're listening to the natural law, the natural time, this is the time of stillness for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, to go inward, to kind of be quiet and to reflect. And yet, what do we tend to do in Western culture? Well, it's the time of like party here and party there, and wrapping gifts and Santa Claus, and all of these lights and distractions and wonderful, beautiful, joyful things often, but also doesn't give us that time and space to fully reflect, and can often lead us into anxious states, or feeling ungrounded or off-centered, or unbalanced. And so all of these things can lead us to feel like we are having a breaking point. And all of this is purposeful from Spirit's perspective, because it's leading us back into our soul blueprint. It's taking us out of the mind, out of the mental orchestrated energies where we believe we have control over something. And it's taking us back into the divine spark, into the interior realms of the soul, where the true guidance really lives. So before we get into some of the supporting energies this evening, I will open the floor. I always want to give anyone a chance to ask questions, to offer their perspectives. And if I hear crickets, then I will move on to the first supporting energy. So in regard to really connecting to our soul blueprint, we have to connect to the purity of spirit. And when we connect to spirit, we have this ability to then maintain our flexibility and our divine protection. And we start to realize that it's not what we're given in life, but what we choose to do with it that matters. We begin to become this conduit of grace. And when we ask Spirit for our soul blueprint, what is my program? What is my unique design? What is your perfect plan here for me? We begin to then receive guidance and intuition and subtle, nuanced nudges that really begin highlighting for us what are our unique and precise capabilities here on this planet. But it requires staying pure at heart and continually committing to moving our stuff out of the way. And the analogy that Spirit used here was thinking of it as furniture that is gathering cobwebs and blocking the light from all the windows and doors. And this image maybe that we're just sitting on the couch, kind of letting all of this collect around us while we look at a screen. And so we're instead to being asked to be continually committed to staying pure at heart. And this will require looking at some of these harder things, these deeper emotions, or this more distorted or inverted thinking that we have had programmed, over many, many lifetimes and generations. And so we're using the resources at our disposal now to their highest and greatest benefit. This is the path into our soul blueprint. Now, in order to maintain that purity of spirit, like we said, it requires this commitment, this desire or devotion to want to meet that part of ourselves, and particularly when we begin to go through changes. And so one of the energies coming up this week is financial and material changes, which Spirit described as changes, challenges, and losses, which spur us into the passion of new beginnings. So while they may seem burdensome at first, they are actually shifting our game board and moving us into the direction of our soul blueprint. And Spirit acknowledges that we may be losing some of our material assets, possessions, or even relationships around us. And we're asked to acknowledge and to know that we exist beyond our physical reality, and we're now called to engage the resources of our spirit. So once again, when we are backed up against a wall and we have nothing else left, we have to engage the resources of our spirit. That's often when people come to God. And so we're going to start seeing this on a collective level, particularly over the next 6 to 8 months, as more and more things are revealed to the populace at large. And those of us who have been awakening for some time will have to kind of step up as stewards to help transition others through this change. So we're encouraged to use these powerful forces within us to move effortlessly and joyfully into this unknown period, that while it will oftentimes feel overwhelming and scary to the personality or to the human self, that everything is shifting for a reason, and it is not meant to be or to even feel like a punishment, even if our inner child is perceiving it as such. And so there's a lot of inner child work going on here. And what does that mean? Well, it's a term for the part of ourselves that is both the divine spark, the part that is always effortlessly and just infinitely connected to the eternal, but also the part of us that has collected woundings, and not just in this timeline, but in any timeline where our soul has existed, and needs those woundings and traumas looked at and addressed from a parent consciousness, so that we aren't acting out some of those woundings unconsciously in our lives. So we're encouraged to embrace these feelings of fear and anxiety, worry, doubt, grief, despair, hollowness, all of these things that we want to turn away from. And we talked on the call last week about sitting with them for 90 seconds, giving them 90 seconds of our space, and just seeing what happens when we are willing to embrace them for that both short and seemingly indeterminable amount of time when you're in that moment. But through this embrace, we are going to be able to create full space, Spirit says, to finally exist and breathe and create the alchemy for our own liberation and release. So anything that is shifting right now that might be causing us stress, Spirit wants us to know that our current conditions are changing for the better. And the question to ask ourselves is, what did I learn from this experience? How can I shift my perspective and actions for the future? So before I move into the next supporting energy, I'd like to open the floor. We can no longer look at our situation from the level of the linear self. We are encouraged right now to rise above, that we are moving into clarity and freedom and solutions, but we will be required to see things from a higher, expanded, and deeper perspective, and to disconnect from any situations which are causing us mental or emotional distress, that we may be too close to something to see things clearly. Spirit, encourage us, take a step back, go within, breathe, pause. A simple solution exists, but it cannot be found from the rational mind or our emotional reactive self. It will become clear when we offer it the space to exist. We're encouraged to not focus on the situation for a while, to give it a rest, to give it over to God actively, to say, this is too much for me. I don't know what to do with this. I'm going to give this to you to sort it out. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to give me a break. And so you're asking us, Spirit is asking us to bring our awareness within, to close our eyes and to breathe deeply, to surrender and to let go, to go outside and to ground barefoot. And that might seem crazy looking at the picture that we have on the screen right now, but even just a few minutes a day of putting our bare feet on the ground is enough to move the circulation of not only our physical form, but our spiritual form more effortlessly and fluidly through our body. So Spirit says, take a walk out in nature, dance, have fun, do whatever it is to detach from things for a while and to trust that the solution is going to become obvious when the time is right. So we're asked not to gnaw on the situations in our lives, but to continually give them back. And if you're someone like me over time who has a lot of worry and doubt and anxiety, I've had to learn through Spirit to constantly give it back. Sometimes I have to give things back like every 5 minutes. But that's what Spirit is asking, to do whatever it takes to detach and to trust that the solution will become obvious. The affirmation, I surrender the situation to Source. I trust that all is well in my life. It is not up to me to control, to manage, to worry, or to fix the situation. I am divinely guided. All is clear in my life, and I am safe. And the energy of the high priestess came in right here with the message that some things are not meant to be known intellectually, but can only be felt and experienced through our intuition. So we must trust that we have access to higher wisdom and knowing, and that we can tune into and trust our vibes. This is the time when mysteries will be revealed and growth will be a direct result, not only individually, but collectively. And our intuitive senses are heightening on every level. And Spirit says, pay attention. So before I move on to the next supporting energy, I'd like to open the floor. In this light transmission of Gimme A Break, we are moving beyond the mind into where the heart beats. Within the chaos of modern life and the constant fluctuations of our minds, it can be difficult to remember that a sublime sanctuary lives within us. And yet, Spirit says it is always there. Beneath our ceaseless activity, there is an endless, vast spaciousness that restores and connects us to something greater than ourselves, that which is eternal and exists outside of time and space. And in this space, all is felt and known. Our own heart's rhythm beats in alignment with the universal heartbeat. The totality of life, all of our being, can be felt as one through listening and feeling for the sacred sound of the heart beating within us. And so, from Spirit's perspective, just putting our hands on our heart when we begin to feel that fear or that doubt or that worry, that anxiety, that is enough to begin to connect us once again to the greater heartbeat. And it is through this heartbeat that we experience a love that is more than a preference or an attachment. This is a love that inspires, energizes, and moves us to create even beyond what we once thought was possible. Our love for life and the need to feel alive and express ourselves, and the quest for that which is truly fulfilling. These are the sacred urges that rebel against our fear and promote passion for being alive. They are flowing through our blood and they are felt through the beatings of our hearts. How many times have we worked up a sweat or been in a crowd of excited people or just been in a room full of joy, and you can start to feel the blood moving through your body faster. You can start to feel yourself becoming more alive. The beating of your heart, maybe not faster, but feeling like you are more in tune with what is real. And Spirit says we reach this space naturally when we lose something often or someone that we love dearly. And for the human, this is incredibly overwhelming. And yet, this grief connects us with the true reality, that with a capital R. And it allows us to know the space between the beating of hearts. And so, while none of us ever want to walk through that doorway of grief, there is an immense treasure that comes with grief because it allows us to immediately connect to true reality. And so we're really encouraged right now to know that there is a way of the mind and that there's a way of the heart. And the way of the mind loves to make mountains out of molehills, even when it feels like it's turning the mountains into molehills. I can't talk tonight. Mountains into molehills. Someone's gonna have to repeat that one for me. And we're encouraged to let go of catastrophe consciousness. So we have these amazing imaginations, and we often use them, what Spirit calls in reverse, where we can immediately just imagine the absolute worst thing possible happening. And so we're encouraged to use that magnificent power to imagine the absolute best thing happening. And as Mimi would say, the better it gets, the better it gets. So there's this way of the heart, this subterranean, this deep moving swift energy that has exquisite sensitivity, and it senses the way forward for us. It allows us to move subtly beneath and around any obstacles, and it intelligently shifts any dangerous pathways and responds to what is happening before they ever occur in the physical realm. And that is something that's really hard for our scared, personality, human self to wrap our minds around. Is like, we're so worried that if we trust in God, like, what if something bad happens and I trusted in God and I'm in, like, not in the right place, or I, didn't listen to my mind, and now, all these things we want to do. And yet, when we are in this place, we actually respond to dangerous things before they even occur in the physical realm. And so when I have worked with the angels in the past, and I was really beginning to understand this for my life, I would say, like, well, are you guys going to, like, tell me when something bad's going to happen? And I just, well, no, like, how's it going to work? And they were like, no, we're just going to tell you to go left instead of right. And you're going to enjoy going left, so much down this path that you'll have avoided whatever, was down this other path that you didn't even know about. And so it's the higher realms do not ever want to put us into fear. The realms of the heart are not about fear. They are about shifting through these dangerous pathways and responding to them before we ever experience them in the physical realm. And so we have to also understand that with the heart's intelligence, we can't see and know in the same way that we do when we allow our mind to direct us. So we have to be open to another way if we want to benefit from this innate intelligence of the heart. The mind sees, plans, strategizes, whereas the heart feels, responds, senses, and intuits its response. And when we walk the path of the heart, we must feel and respond rather than plan our way forward, which can be really hard for people that are really locked into that way of living. And we're encouraged that we have to exist in the present in full reception of each moment. This is a different way to live and create, and it requires detachment from our collective programming. Yet it is closer to the earth and to the source of life itself. However, it is not for those who are lacking in courage, faith, or trust, because we are now being asked to drop fully into our hearts, that we are moving into an unknown that even the soul has never experienced on this planet. And the mind is important as a servant, but it cannot navigate the next terrain. Instead, we must create the spacious chamber of receptiveness into which the sacred rhythm of our heartbeat can fully respond. Deep within, Spirit says, we know what to do and we know what is true. It doesn't matter whether the mind plans or its plans agree with this inner sense. Our willingness to trust our hearts and to rebel against our fear will serve us well. We're encouraged to let our hearts lead the way forward as only they can see through this dark path, and to be sure of our faith and to trust in what we feel. So to really trust in our intuitive senses. When the head and the heart are in conflict, it's going to bring us great suffering and struggle. However, the mind must now wave its flag of surrender and become the true servant of the heart. It will be a relief to live in this way as we begin to release these old programs. In fact, we're returning to our natural state of existence. There will be a period of adjustment, but we will get used to living without so much foresight because we will have so much more insight, wisdom, and energy in the present moment that allows us to create, create, create. And Spirit said that we can always use children as inspiration. They are always in the present moment creating. And so, if we are finding that we cannot plan or strategize or outline our life as we once did, or we feel like we know less about our lives and where we're going than we've ever known, or where we're heading, or how we're supposed to get there, Spirit said this comes as confirmation that this is the healthiest sign of a shift from our head to our heart. We are not proceeding in error. In fact, we are exactly where we're meant to be, doing exactly what we are meant to be doing. The lyrics here were, my soul stood up and stared me down, said, I've walked you down this road and I am proud to lift you up, to tear you down. But there's a person that you must be. Just trust me. And so we are being led toward this soul blueprint no matter what. And we are now in a position that is more powerful than ever before. We're allowing ourselves to be guided by this force of love, which is greater than this individual personality, this tiny human soul. And our affairs are now in accord with love. And no matter what may appear to be at times, all is unfolding according to this greater love. So before I move on to the last energy of the evening, I'd like to open the floor one more time. The final supporting energy in this transmission of Gimme a Break is that we must not be so fixated on our own needs that we are insensitive to the needs of those around us. And to notice any causes of unnecessary stress or estrangement between ourselves and those in our lives, or any frustration we might be feeling at the moment, and to know that this is a reflection of our own shadow or aspects of our own nature which have been wounded and fragmented. And this is actually an opportunity to heal these shadow parts, but it will require loving ourselves fully and taking a step back. So, not taking it so personally. We're encouraged to take a breath and, as the transmission began, give things a break. That this is the way forward, to be easy on ourselves and to be easy on others, to open our hearts through activities and situations and relationships which bring us joy. And simplicity. Spirit really wants us to focus on the simple things, especially through this very hectic month of December when everything can get very heady, up into the upper chakras in a very unbalanced way. And so we're really encouraged to be with the darkness, particularly those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, and to really embrace what that stillness, that solitude, that reflective time is offering us, these opportunities. And to know that this darkness within us is individual, but it is also collective, and it is seeking the light right now. And we're encouraged to allow this, to recognize the shadow and any aspects of ourselves that we are hiding, denying, projecting outwardly onto others, or avoiding to take responsibility for. And instead, we're encouraged to take responsibility for any pain that we either knowingly or unknowingly inflicted on others through the fragmentation of our parts. And this is simply just part of being human. We are all part of this program, and we all have these wounded parts. But when we hide or deny them or avoid them, then we can't take responsibility for ourselves, and we can't take responsibility for any of the pain that we may have consciously or unconsciously inflicted. And Spirit wants us to know that there's no shame in this. There's nothing that enough love and compassion for all will not relieve. So we're encouraged to acknowledge any fear or neediness that we experience and to kindly bring these shadow parts into the light of our self-love and acceptance. When we accept ourselves compassionately and see it accurately for the wounded inner child that it is, then we know that it can then ask for more love and support. And we, as the parent consciousness, can embrace and give it to these wounded aspects. And within those 90 seconds, often, of course, sometimes this happens in layers, but we're often able to move through this energy in a much more beautiful kind of waterfall way than when we have resistance and kind of move into the lower vibrations of fear. So we are as well encouraged to reach out for physical help and support, anything that we need on the mental, emotional, and material levels, and to remain open to receiving what is our highest and best, that we can be receptive and open to support without having to engage in drama, anger, fear, resistance, or negativity. So often in our society, we don't ask for what we need until we have an emotional reaction or a trigger, or we feel like we've been taken advantage of. And so we're really encouraged to stay in that natural state of balance and receptivity and open to support, so that we can avoid to having to engage in some of this other lower vibrational emotion that really isn't serving us. So when we believe in our basic goodness and our lovability, then love can finally reach back and embrace us fully. So the point of this breaking point, this give me a break, is to lead us into our soul blueprint, into the purity of our spirit, where we are maintaining this flexibility and protection at a divine level. And once again, Spirit reminds us it is not what we are given in life, but what we choose to do with it that matters, that we each have unique and precise capabilities. And we are encouraged to ask, what is my unique design? And to stay in prayer and to stay in meditation and to listen to the codes and the messages that we're receiving in the outer world, because God does have a perfect plan for us. And the more that we are continually committed to moving our quote stuff out of the way, to kind of pushing things away from the light of the windows and doors so that it can stream into the mansion that is our soul, and to use the resources at our disposal to our highest and greatest benefit. And we do that when we stay in the frequencies of appreciation and gratitude. So we might be experiencing some shifts on the financial or material levels, but we will be able to rise above this, particularly by trusting our vibes, by listening to our intuitive senses, which are heightening and coming online in even greater ways, going beyond the mind into the heart, into that innate intelligence that is always placing us at right place, right time, and then embracing this opportunity to face the shadow, even though it is incredibly uncomfortable and not at all sometimes what we feel like doing. But it is taking us into that soul blueprint. We are on the fast track now, and we are very much encouraged during this holiday season to give ourselves a break, to be gentle on ourselves, to be easy on ourselves, and to offer those gifts to those around us. Before I close out in prayer for the night, I'd like to open the floor one last time. Thank you, everyone, for being on the call tonight. I will meet everybody live after the recording. I just appreciate everyone listening to this throughout time and space, wherever you are, wherever you find us. And just thank you for connecting your hearts with ours. We appreciate you so much. Thank you again.